Right men, in this video I'm going to take you through the exact process I use to diagnose a specific root cause shoulder injury, what I do after that as well to completely get rid of it. For those of you that don't know who I am, that are new to the channel, my name's Paul Green. I'm a former Special Forces Support Group operator and British paratrooper. I've trained elite soldiers for the best part of 10 years. Now I train grapplers because grapplers are my people. I'm a purple belt myself. I've got close to 7 years experience, and it is my mission to keep as many men on the mats for as long as possible. Injuries are just part of this martial art, you know, and if I can do my small bit to reduce that from happening, then happy days. So sometimes with me coaching grapplers on a full-time basis, sometimes I get a message on a morning and it's, Greenie, my shoulder's fucked. I didn't tap from a Kimura or something along them lines. And what I do next in that process with these blokes, I'm hoping that you having that level of insight, you can take it into your own lives, into your own training to get yourselves back on the mat pain-free as quick as possible. But also I want to really challenge you conceptually. Today I'm talking about the shoulder, right? But if you've got dramas in your knees, if you've got dramas with your elbows, I really want you to try and transfer that across the same concepts, because all I'm doing is following a system. I send somebody a joint functions test. I build them a program based off the symptoms that they show on that joint functions test. They do the program and they progress through the program. And then once it's sorted, we just remove that part of the rehab and then we just go back to normal training. That might be difficult for you to do. I'm going to start things off on this little mini series on the shoulder because the shoulder is considered a complicated joint. I'm hoping that I can explain it in a really simple manner so that you understand a little bit more about the shoulder and you can just believe in the process a little bit more and be more motivated by doing these doing this type of training. So that's the intro done, and yeah, let's get into it, right? So for example, one of my clients, he had three injuries on his shoulders, right? And for me to identify which one was the biggest concern and the one that was causing him the biggest drama to his quality of life, I need to send him basically what I call the longevity program shoulder functions test. And I sent him a video of 6 or 7 movements. The video will come up here. I'm just going to talk through the video as well. And feel free to use this yourself to identify your own issues. That'd be absolutely amazing. The power of YouTube has presented you with a video. You know, the interwebs, the algorithm has presented you with a video that actually helps your problem. Like, that is unbelievable. Anyway, let's get straight into this. Longevity program shoulder functions test. I'm going to turn the sound down. I'm going to explain over it. Starting with circles, forwards and rearwards. Then we go into shoulder flexion. And then we go into shoulder extension. Basically, what I want the blokes to do when they have issues is I want them to do these movements, but I also want them to explain to me while they're video recording the movements back to me when their symptoms come on. So a lot of the time with the shoulder, because it's complicated, they might not get symptoms when they're doing, the majority of these movements. However, a couple might give them symptoms. So what I get them to do is I'm like, tell me your pain rating out of 10 and point to where it is. So you're going to see my client, who's a grappler, blue belt. No, he's not. He's a white belt, actually. You bastard. Anyway, they do these movements. They speak to me live the symptoms in which come on, right? Yeah, you get the idea. I'm going to let this shoulder functions test play out, and we got the stability one at the end. So it's seven kind of functions of the shoulder, right? And a lot of these might not be causing you issues. This year, shoulder injuries have came across my desk more often than anything else from jiu-jitsu. And I find that really interesting. Last year, it was more often the knees, but this year, shoulders. And for the most part, the issues lay within internal and external rotation, right? So I've sent this to Keith. said, look mate, I know your shoulder's fucked, but I need the data to guide my programming, right? Because him saying his shoulder's fucked is a very vague term. I need to know exactly what function is causing him that symptom, because the symptom basically tells me where the weakness is, where needs strengthening to reduce that symptom. One mistake a lot of people make when they are, rehabbing issues and getting stronger joints is they address the pain. I use the pain as a guide to train the root cause issue. So by focusing your entire energy on pain, solve the pain, you think that the issue's solved. It's not solved, because when he's pain free, it doesn't mean anything. It just means, yeah, great, he's got a lot of his quality of life back. But the underlying root cause issue is still there, which is a weak certain function of the shoulder. So when you understand that, you can strengthen that function, right? Not just strengthen it, because the process of strengthening it will get it pain free really fast, but then you can start to build resilience in that joint so the issue never comes back. The problem with a lot of people, as I say, they focus entirely on the pain, painkillers, anti-inflammatories, massage, physiotherapy, acupuncture, all of this stuff, and they don't actually strengthen that function of the shoulder. It's very simple when you think about strengthening that function of the shoulder. And going back to Keith, he sends me back. I'm going to put the sound on here and I'm going to try and be quiet so you can hear him talking over symptoms, which guides my program. If he says, this is fine, I'm not going to hammer him with that exercise. But if he says, this hurts, believe it or not, I am going to strategically train the area in which hurts him. If this hurts, then I'm going to make that easier and I'm going to build up to that until it doesn't hurt. I know that might seem simple, and I know a lot of experts out there say avoid, don't do jiu-jitsu, you're on the surgery table, how do I avoid this happening in the future? Just don't do jiu-jitsu. That's not going to happen. So it's important that you know how to address these issues yourself, or have a process for addressing these issues yourself, or a coach like me.
Okay, circles.
Right. So Keith sends me the videos of each one.
This is my right side here. Pain here. Pain here. Right side here on the top. Here. Here. Pain here. I'm not critical. Not critical.
The video I'm looking for as a coach, guiding his training, I'm looking for how well he moves through the movement I've asked him to do, if there's any pain, and where specifically that pain is. Them are the big three for me on every single one of these functions. I'm not going to take you through every one. I'm just going to take you through some of the ones where I'm getting some important information to guide his programming. I'm going to tell you what I did as well. So the next one we do is the different one.
Side shoulder raise.
You can see the concern in his face when he's doing the side shoulder raises, both upwards and rearwards. Sorry, upwards and down.
And a lot of snapping and crackling also right here in the front.
Yeah. So when he says a lot of snapping and crackling and he starts pointing to the front, that starts to get my red flag, and I'm thinking internal rotator cuff, right? But when he's pointing to the top, I'm thinking ACJ, which is, it's a fixed joint. It's basically your collarbone where it attaches to the shoulder. So in my coaching head, I'm thinking which one is causing him the biggest drama, right? So I have to think about his day, what he does every day, how often he's on the mat, and which one I need to prioritize. If I can manage to prioritize a couple at the same time, great. But I'm looking at how he's moving, I'm looking at the symptoms, and I'm thinking, right, which one do we really need to focus on at the start here to get him in a really good place? Then we can potentially focus on the next. So that was the lateral flexion. And as you can see,
Right side here.
bit of concern when he enters the end range and a bit of clear visible pain in his face. And he's pointed to where the pain is. and he's told me what the symptom is. Crucial. External rotation here.
External rotation 1.
High elbow external rotation, which is a fairly advanced version of external rotation. So when he starts saying this stuff here, pain on the back of his delts, and he starts to drag his finger right down, that tells me there's a little bit of nerve symptoms, right, from this shoulder issue. Minor nerve issues, by the way. Anyway, from that, from them symptoms there, where he's pointing to the front of his shoulder and the top of his shoulder, I have 2 bits of critical information. I'm not going to go through the rest of the shoulder functions test because the other ones didn't give him any pain. The 2 issues which needed addressing was the ACJ and the internal rotator cuff. I found out which was worse when I give him his first upper body session. We've got flat dumbbell chest press, we've got a lat pull down, we've got a dumbbell shoulder press, a dumbbell row chest assisted, and a dumbbell skull crusher for his upper body session. And that hasn't changed much from the start. But when I placed him on the upper body session, aligned with a little bit of rehab as well on the side for the shoulder, him doing that shoulder session gave me the information again which guided the rehab. So when he said to me after his upper body workout, he's like, right, you know, when I'm pressing, I hurt this, I feel it here, and I don't really feel it much in the top other than when I'm entering the end ranges. So I was like, okay, cool. What we're going to do is we're going to keep you doing the upper body sessions. We're going to avoid the end ranges, which is the ACJ. The ACJ is this collarbone, right? It only moves when we're in the deep positions. I placed him on basically a range of motion reduction, right? While we really focused on the internal rotator cuff injury. And I'm going to show you another video of him doing an internal rotator cuff movement, and you can see him in pain. And I'm like, we found it. The sooner I am able to find the root cause, the better, right? When I'm able to give him a movement and he says, yes, that brings on the pain instantly, I am thinking gold. However, I need to, as a coach, as an expert in this realm, I need to make the movement easier. So then we build into that issue that's causing him pain. One of the mistakes most men make, sadly, is that they find the movement that hurts them and they avoid anything similar. I find the movement that hurts and make it a hell of a lot easier to get the area stronger. Then that becomes stronger and it's no pain. An example of this is when he's doing the internal rotator cuff version of the movement, which I placed him on. I'm like, look, we need to try this. We need to try this movement to see how you get on, right? So we'll listen into how he gets on.
Right up here, left side. Pain on the top, right. Pause when I do that.
End ranges, ACJ.
Right here in the front, like right, this is kind of the front of my deltoid, right there in that crease.
Very common issue. The Kimura, right in the front of the shoulder. Visible pain, probably looking at 6, 7 out of 10 for pain there in the front. Struggling. Face, really struggling. This level of communication back and forth between me as a coach, the expert, and him as an absolute dream client is absolute gold dust for me, right? Because I can guide every little area of his training and he receives the benefits of that. He had about 5 injuries, you know, at the same time, and he was giving me such transparency in his training. I'm able to produce the best sort of solutions for him. You know, it's amazing, right? As I say, he had an MCL injury at the same time as an internal rotator cuff, ACJ, a little bit of nerve symptoms, and I think a groin strain as well. But this level of communication back and forth from him gets him the best results. Like, he now has like 1 injury out of them 5. Anyway, enough about that. He now has visible pain, and he's very uncomfortable when he's doing that movement here. So what do I need to do at that point? So what I did, when I've identified the function, the exact function that causes the pain, and let's say it's a resistance band, right? A resistance band is it's an active exercise, it's moving. We're basically shortening, it's a very short muscle anyway, we're shortening and lengthening the muscle. If moving at very low resistance aggravates the area, we need to not move, right? And we need to build into movement. We need to earn the right to move that body part, that muscle, right? And one of the most powerful ways that I couldn't explain how powerful this is for pain reduction is something called an isometric hold. It's basically where we lock the joint, and I'm going to just go on to a picture of Keith doing the isometric hold version of this, into a certain angle, and we control how much we internally rotate or how much we move the joint. So in this scenario, you can see me coaching him doing his movement, and he's holding a fixed object and he's internally rotating through that object. Obviously, he can't internally rotate through that. But one thing this gives us the power to do is find the exact point the pain comes on and also control how much effort we put into that movement. And he will do a hold here for 30 seconds to 45 seconds. So what I told him to do is I said, right, we're going to start this off with a 60% contraction for 30 seconds. You're going to repeat that 3 times. You're going to do that most days, right? After you can do 2 sessions of 60% contractions, we're going to do 80% contractions. So we're going to push that little bit harder for the 30 seconds. After he's done the 80% contractions, we're going to revisit the movement with the band. And by me giving him that, like, you know, the clear goals, he's extremely motivated. He understands exactly where the issue is. He's getting the feedback from the session because he's now in less pain within about 5 days, complete pain, you know, close to like gone, where he's had these issues for, you know, almost a decade. It's like, oh my God, it feels better instantly. People don't realize when you attack, I say attack, gently attack or strategically attack the root cause of your issue, the results are just absolutely insane. But it's very difficult for people to do this on their own, and it's very difficult it's scary because you haven't, think about it. When you train, you are strategically damaging your muscle fibers to make them stronger. When you train with an injury, that doesn't change. You are still strategically damaging muscle fibers that were already damaged to make them stronger. But I just, hopefully you appreciate the detail I'm giving you with this video. Because once we found out the internal rotator cuff issue and we found his start point, which was the isometric holds, because it's about finding the finding the exercise variation that is pain-free. Not pain-free, maybe mildly uncomfortable. So we're flirting with pain, right? Not, or it hurts every single rep I do. It's like on the 7th or the 8th rep or 20 seconds in, the pain starts to come on. Awesome, in a hold. Do you know what I mean? It's about finding a start point, not avoiding it. Because if you avoid it, it doesn't get stronger. Like, and I say this, there's some parts of your body that do get stronger with rest and stuff like that, but there's some little fucking parts of your body that will never get stronger. And examples of that is, basically, you've got certain joints in your body, yeah? You've got certain ligaments and tendons in them joints. Some of them ligaments have really good blood flow, and the ones with really good blood flow, for example, your MCL, probably will get stronger on its own. But there's little fucking weird areas in your body that have very poor blood flow. And it's the areas with poor blood flow that don't really recover very well at all by themselves. So we need to increase that blood flow with these to get that real specific contraction in that area safely to start to regenerate these tissues. Hopefully you appreciate that insight, right? And I can fully appreciate how me sat here saying these things when your joints are in pain can just be a real hard thing to appreciate. And that's why I offer this as a one-to-one coaching service, because I support the blokes through these steps, because it's not just a physical battle, it's a mental battle to overcome 10,000 times you've heard, just rest, that's as much of a mental battle as it is a physical battle to do these movements on a regular basis. So yeah, that's what I do when I get a random message saying my shoulder hurts. I instantly send them a shoulder functions test. It's the same with the knee. They instantly get a knee functions test. If it's a hip, they get a hip functions test. And I will build them a rehab program based off that issue. But remember this, fixing the issue that's not what interests me. Like helping blokes get stronger, that's not what interests me. What really interests me is transforming their character, because if we transform somebody's character to smile at these issues in the future and think of them as developmental opportunities, and this is just me working on a weak area, and not have a meltdown because their shoulder hurts, just go, well, I just need to solve it. Do you know what I mean? I would love if grapplers thought about their injuries with as much of a growth mindset as they did their technique, learning berimbolos. Do you know what I mean? When you're struggling with a technique on the mats, you hire a coach, you get help, you learn everything about the technique, you slow it down, you reduce the intensity, you find a start point, you break the movement up. When you get injured, too many blokes go into a mindset of giving up and a mindset of quick fixes. You don't do quick fixes on the mat. Let's not do quick fixes off the mat as well. That's it from me, gentlemen, right? The links are in my description if you want to work with me on a one-on-one basis. If you've got any questions, if you want me to send you over this joint functions test so you've got it in your back pocket, message me on Instagram. Again, the links are in my description. That's it from me. Hopefully you found it useful. If you did, subscribe to the channel, like the video, so then I know that you like this shit, and yeah, see you tomorrow.